Hey everybody! Hey, welcome. Da, 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 da. Welcome to
Marc
and Elmer's PSI. Welcome back. Yes, and boy, have we got a show for you today. Please hang on with us. Like I said, we're going to be. I got a feeling that we're going to be going on a few adventures real soon here, but. Say something. Oh yeah, that's right. If you like our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share us with your friends, neighbors, colleagues. Okay?
Yeah, I'm getting closer to having us up to contemporaneous programs. We've got 6 up there now.
Something like 6.
And I think I've got with this show possibly 5 now, but one of them's kind of short. That one we did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I can't believe we actually got it under 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, that's short for us, as you would well know by now.
Yeah.
But spring already started, so I'm not quite caught up, but I'm getting there. I'm looking forward to that. Once I get the ones that we've got in the can most recently, put them up, then I pretty much just record that week, put it up that week, and that'll make it possible to connect more immediately over the Facebook page we have, Marc and Elmer's Piano Scene Investigations. I think it's also, you could look up Marc and Elmer's PSI.
Yeah.
And the and, I don't know if it makes a difference, but it's ampersand.
Yes.
Yeah, we're hoping to develop more of a communicative community, just to get people talking about subjects that we do. I think we're nowhere close enough to having a kind of a studio setting with like live radio and stuff like people call them.
No, probably not. Although we
guys were born before people had personal computers. Okay,
yeah.
Just leave it at that.
We're gonna set up a blue screen and have virtual reality audiences or something.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, so anyways.
So what are we doing today?
I don't know. How was your week?
My week's pretty good. I mean, things have been picking up. I had a couple of health things recently. Picked up a parasitic infection, possibly from the doctor thought it probably sushi or something raw. Well, what else do I eat raw?
Wow.
But I don't know. Or it could have come from something, but it kind of tore its way through me until it's been 2 weeks now. He came to my house, a doctor friend, and diagnosed it, gave me a couple meds to take, and it started to help immediately. And then I had a bit of a dermatological moment, which seems to be all good and positive. On Monday, I went to get checked up and ended up on the table.
Oh, gosh.
But it's a really good doctor. His name is Dr. Storer in Delaware, Ohio. He's really good. I've seen him over the last few years, just once a year or so, things that it's been really helpful about stuff. It reminded me, though, of when I told him about this issue that was having in my back. It was like itching me like crazy. And he said, "Oh, well, maybe we'll take care of that right now." And he did tell me kind of what it was, but it's not like a carcinoma or a melanoma, but it's something that
Something that,
disturbed him enough.
yeah.
But it reminded me in the moment. I said to him, "So it's not as bad as like when Richard Pryor showed up after he set himself on fire freebasing."
Oh gosh.
And he said, the doctor says, "Holy God, let's serve this up with some barbecue and coleslaw." And he said, no, it's not that bad.
Oh God. Well, okay. Well,
how you doing?
Oh, pretty good. You needed to
perform some kind of rescue operation for coffee creamer or something?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, Kathy woke up one morning and, well, I had coffee. And, as you well know, I'll drink my coffee black. Fresh out of the carafe, coffee black. Kathy doesn't drink hers black. And I didn't realize we were out of half and half. She comes down, and I'm sitting there, on the other side of the house, warming up, just doing some scales. And I hear, "Daggone it!" Says, "Where's the frickin' half and half?"
Oh, that's why you're upset. You interrupted your practice.
Yeah. So, anyways, so I had to go and run to Kroger's, the store down the street, to grab some half and half for my dear wife.
That same morning, I had written Elmer, and I got a piece of news in the Google feed. This has nothing to do with piano, but it does have to do with artists loving good things.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Nice things sometimes. We can enjoy life.
Oh, yeah.
It's not sweat and tears at the keyboard all the time.
Yeah.
And certainly not at this age.
Yes, absolutely.
But there is an old Italian bakery called Aldino's.
Aldino's, yeah.
In Columbus. And I think, there were some issues during the COVID time. Everybody's affected a little bit. But I'm not sure why. But last year, there was a big announcement. It was a big deal for people that Aldino's was curtailing all of its pastry and sweet line. They were not going to make anymore, just the bread. And they make really lovely breads. Focaccia, ciabatta, really nice Italian. The Italian version of what would be a French country bread kind of thing.
Yep.
They also make some denser things too, I noticed, and stuff. They have some imported things, meat, and cheeses and various things. But there was a news item, I think either just that morning, early in the morning, and I was up at like 4 in the morning, so they had come in. They're back. They've returned to making their pastries and things. Hallelujah. Apparently, since the beginning of the year, I didn't know, but that's when the article came out just recently. It's called 614 Now in Columbus. The 614 Underground and 614 Now. And the 614 Now is often about food, the food environment in Columbus, which is really quite good. We got some really great places to eat.
Oh, yeah,
And a real mix of cultural heritages. So, wow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of amazing what you have access to. But, so, they're famous for something they call the cronut.
The cronut.
The cronut.
Oh.
It's a croissant, but then they have dipped it in the sugar that you glaze on a donut. And I think somehow it makes it a little more donutty.
Donutty? Really?
Definitely with the sugar on it.
Wow.
I got 2 of those. There's a black lady that was in there, came in at the same time that I was there. She said, have you tried these? Or don't you love these? And I said, this is my first time here. Said, oh, honey, you are in for something. She was right. And she told me, she said, now what you got to do, you take it home and pop it in the microwave for 10 seconds. Just to warm it up a little bit. Yeah. They said, oh my God, honey. It's far fewer things better than that. She was right. Oh my God. But even better than that, they make a pastry, a real Italian pastry. Yeah. And it's a little, it's very complicated. I could print out the recipe to see if Laura wants to make it. She thought she'd give it a try. It's not millefeuille, which is the stuff you use strudel or the French superfine leaf
Okay.
or like Middle Eastern pastry.
Right.
It's something else. Oh, I know what they do. They make a pastry, and then they keep rolling it thinner and thinner. You roll it out.
Yeah.
Do it again. Do it again. They mentioned using a pasta machine where you just increase the numbers until it's like super, super thin.
Yeah.
But basically, the thing looks like a lobster tail, except it's covered in powdered sugar. But it has this kind of like this kind of shape.
Okay.
It's called sfogliatella. Sfogliatella. Now, the lady that, when I asked her what it was, because I didn't know it at first what it was, I said, "What's that?" Sfogliatella. I think I'm almost certain I'm musician. She said sfogliatella. And clearly, I think they're Calabrese or from another part of southern Italy. So dialects, you know. There is high Italian, but if you hear real Sardinians or Sicilians, and like the Calabrese or the people that live in Montepulciano, I think it's called, some of those southern mountainous areas, wow. It's Italian, but it's different. Well, Napoli is Italian.
Yeah.
It is famous for being its own dialect. But anyway, it's called sfogliatella, and it literally means the lobster tail. But the inside is a kind of a dense cheesecakey-like mixture made with ricotta cheese, orange essence, and cinnamon. And it's very light in a way. And then there's this really crispy on the outside, but very thin, crispy.
Yeah.
And there's the powder sugar. It's not an easy, it's messy to eat. But, oh my God, I bit into it and I thought at first, what is that flavor? And then I looked it up and I realized, oh my God, ricotta cheese. Yeah, because, you know, that's like...
So is it orange flavor or citrusy? Citrusy?
It's more like orange flower, like perfume. That's like it's more the aroma. It's not real strong orange.
Okay.
But what you get more is like the aroma of the orange, and it's got some cinnamon in it. Boy, now I know what they said in the article was that Nonno, meaning Grandpa, Aldino, was back in business. Good for him. I'm hoping that somebody back in that kitchen is learning. Yeah. Is being trained to do this, and maybe why they reopened it. Maybe there's somebody back there. But anyway, people, if you've never been there, I would strongly recommend taking a visit to Aldino's. They are super famous for their 8-inch sub rolls. There were several guys, big contractor kind of guys, that came in and grabbed a big bag of these, threw their money on the table, and walked out. I mean, they knew exactly what it cost. I had $5-6, and then walk out with the bags. The ladies were ringing it up afterwards because they were just in there grabbing these sandwich rolls. I bought, I think, the same kind of thing, but they were a little smaller dinner rolls, about 4 inches maybe or so. Not 6, but maybe like 4 or 5 inches. Really wonderful. Kind of a lightly crispy outside, and then an airy but a little bit chewy interior, like a good baguette. Not like the fabulous. It's not a baguette, but similar in a way to it. I'm going back again at some point soon because I gotta get some more of those sfogliatella. But wow, anyway, people, it's called Aldino's with 2 D's, and it's over. If you're around Columbus and you hear us anyway, it's on the southern side of where the whole kind of Ohio State Fairground business is. Between you said south on Summit. Between Summit and then if you went the other way, it would be 4th, right? Yeah. Between Summit and 4th. Okay. And kind of up in there, it's a little commercially, industrially up in there. It really is. And the place is really cool because I imagine they've been there for decades. Yeah. Looks to me like the present entrance in the building and the inside. We go back to the 50s, maybe. Yeah. But it's clean. It's nice. Oh, good. Good service. Grandma was there. Nana Aldino. She's doing her work, you know, pushing things around and stuff. Little tiny lady, but anyway. That was the reason I talked about it so much. When I talk about something that much, because I'm really excited about it, passionate about it. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, but they're closed by 2 o'clock. So they open
2 p.m.
8 in the morning until 2 p.m. Yep.
Wow.
Pretty much they're done by then.
That's a surprise. Okay, well,
So a little plug there for you.
Cool. Anyways,
And we didn't get paid for that at all.
we did. We don't need to. It's our service to community. Anyways, I didn't bring any movies or recordings with me today, but however, I do want to talk about a certain movie that popped up in my head. I have. I'll bring it in a couple weeks. I've ordered a copy of this movie.
I've yet to watch any of these films with him because he will not invite me over to his house.
We will. Okay. We have to get the television
No,
fixed again.
teasing.
Anyways, yeah. All right.
Okay, he's got a V8. What do you call it? VCR.
Yeah,
VHS, right?
VHS player.
He's got a videotape player.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have one of those. They're expensive.
Yes, they are expensive.
I would
now.
never buy one from a used store because I'll eat it. But
Yeah, pretty much.
the new ones are like $600 to over $1,000.
Really?
Yeah. If you look
The
at
new
Amazon.
VCRs.
Yeah.
That played video cassettes.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they had them on the market again.
Well, I used to have a really great setup. I had a Go video made in Korea.
Yeah.
And it was tape on one side and DVD
on the other. Yeah.
And they had a mechanism where it would read through.
Regions.
It would read through anything.
Yeah.
And while I had that thing, yes, I used it.
Oh, God.
Then I left it with my girlfriend in Colorado. And now it's gone. So
Bummer. Anyways, the movie I want to bring to you today is a movie directed by James Toback. I don't know who he is, but apparently he's a big name as far as directors go. He's I guess he goes back quite a bit.
this is an American film? English film?
I believe it's an American film.
Okay.
And anyways, the star of this movie is a very, very young Harvey Keitel.
Oh, I love Harvey Keitel.
What a mean guy.
He's a really good actor.
I know. I mean, he's scary too.
Isn't he the guy that many years later he's on Thelma and Louise? He's the friendly cop that's trying to
Yeah, I think
bring
he
him in
was.
without something getting out of control.
Yeah.
When they drive off the ridge,
Yeah.
he's the one that's running after the car trying to get him to stop.
I remember him from Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs.
Well, there was wasn't he in? I forget. It was one of those Indian movies. It was about some bad crap going down with the federal government doing some shit on an Indian reservation, and he's a good guy. He's a good federal guy, good cop. But and I forget the Indian fellow stars in it. It was a magnificent movie. Harvey Keitel.
Yes, Harvey Keitel.
Definitely.
Anyways, this movie is from 1978. Try and see if you could find
That's
this
a
movie
ways
anywhere.
back,
Oh yeah, 1978. So and he looks very young in this movie. He looks very young. And the movie is called Fingers.
Ooh.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Fingers? Okay. Well, there's a few DVD copies out there. They're hard to find. Okay. But I've actually located one.
Sounds like some titles of certain films I used to see from that period of time.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, the front cover of the DVD.
I think this is different.
Yeah, this is very different. Has a picture of Harvey Keitel's face, but you see this hand going out like this. You see the fingers. Okay. Now, and believe it or not, Harvey Keitel actually plays a concert pianist. He plays a concert pianist who aspires to make his debut at
Carnegie
Hall.
Yeah.
And so the movie opens with him in this apartment, and he's practicing. And he's doing all those mannerisms that you often see, young pianists go. He's singing to himself and going out like that. This sort of deal. And he is practicing, correct me if I'm wrong, J.S. Bach's Toccata number 6 in E minor.
Oh, yeah.
Is it E minor?
Mm-hmm.
Number 6? Okay, yeah, number 6 in E minor. And I was struck by the quality of the playing. It was very good. And so...
I didn't know he was a great pianist.
He's not a, well, he is in the movie. It was well done. It was well done.
But he looked convincing.
He looked very convincing.
Good for him.
So,
We applaud that.
yeah. I mean, the
Because
acting.
most of those movies, like, come on.
Yeah. So,
It's an
but no,
embarrassing.
he sat there. I mean, almost straight this way, but you see him go, doing this thing and count,
Was
lip
Glenn called
syncing
in
with
for,
the rhythms.
for paid coaching or anything?
I don't know.
But I want to make it look really like this. Sing louder than you're actually playing.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so he aspires to be a concert pianist, to make his debut at Carnegie Hall. Now, the problem with this movie is mostly with his family. Okay, his mother in the movie, she's not altogether, right up here. She's getting psychiatric help.
Oh.
Don't know where he got the music from.
Probably from that lineage.
Possibly.
There's a definite connection between what we would call mental illness. You look up stuff with the DSM-4 book that categorizes all kinds of stuff like that. And there's some really interesting connections between depression, manic depression, and artistic creativity. Yeah. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody, especially not to artists.
Yeah. So anyways, his father owns this pizzeria or restaurant, I think.
Is he Italian?
Yeah.
The character's Italian?
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel is Italian.
Well, supposedly. Now, his father, like I said, owns this. I think he owns the restaurant. Not sure, or a pizzeria, but that's mostly a cloak.
Oh, was it drugs?
No, he's just. I think he's some sort of quasi loan shark mafia kind of deal.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know if the father actually deals with the actual mafia in the movie, but he's actually a loan shark. And so and he's too old.
Restaurant is a front.
Yeah, so basically he's cloaked behind being a restaurant owner. Yeah. But anyways, so people owe him money, which he asks, Harvey Keitel in the movie to be his enforcer.
Enforcer?
The enforcer.
As the pianist.
He's the pianist, but he enforces his father's dealings.
Well, I hope he uses a gun most of the time. That keeps his hands safe, right?
Well, surprisingly, if you watch the movie, let's just say, I'm going to leave that part out, okay? So I won't give away too much, but let's just say he's a very forceful.
He's the right character for that.
He is the right character for that. He goes out and he collects. Basically, he's a collector, okay? He collects for his dad.
Wow.
But beyond that, he's always got this suit on, which is always disheveled looking, and he walks around with this big radio, on his shoulder.
Really?
And it plays music. Yeah, a boombox. But it's not like a boombox. They didn't call it that. Yeah. It's just a regular AM, FM radio with a silver speaker on the side, and he's just walking around like this, and he's got his, like I said, his suit, and he's disheveled, and he's chewing gum.
Those of you who are too young, that was a real thing in the 70s.
Yeah.
These people would walk around with, what do we call those things? This is stereo radio.
Portable radio.
Tape player kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they'd hold it with the speakers facing them. You could see some real interesting characters. But it became a status thing, an iconic symbol and stuff for a while. And then all of a sudden the Walkman showed up.
Yeah, the Walkman showed up.
Walkman showed up, and this little portable cassette player with the
headphones, earphones.
Which was a relief to a lot of other people. I love that scene in Star Trek when they go back to San Francisco to save the whales.
The whales, oh yeah.
And there's that scene on the bus.
Yeah.
When Spock has his ears covered up with the sweatband.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's supposed to be. And there's this really annoying,
obnoxious,
heavy metal guy listening to his radio. And Kirk just says, "Could you please turn that down, because it's really annoying." And everybody in the bus is afraid of the guy.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know it, it's a great scene. But
Yeah.
Kirk says, "Could you please turn that down?" And the guy goes like, "I am."
Turns it up.
And Kirk looks at Spock, and I don't know if it meant do something about it or if Spock just interpreted it. He just reaches over and gives him the
Vulcan nerve pinch, knocks the guy out. Yeah, the guy falls off the bridge. It turns off.
The whole bus just breaks into huge applause.
Captain Kirk's over there going, no, not of approval.
So is that how he did away with these people? It was like the Vulcan death grip?
Nerve pinch, yeah.
Yeah.
He calls it
Harvey Keitel did? Is that how he did?
No, he doesn't.
No.
So he doesn't do it.
But pianists have very strong fans.
Oh yeah, he did too in the movie.
I've opened a lot of jars for people.
They called him on the streets, by the way, in the movie. He does go by the name Jimmy Fingers.
Ooh.
Jimmy Fingers.
Ooh.
So, but anyways, yeah, he does all of the bad stuff in this movie. All the bad stuff. Everything. It's a very dark film. Siskel and Ebert at the time gave it 2 thumbs up.
Wow.
So it did well, but it's sort of a bit of a box office sleeper.
The 70s had their kind of own film noir period. Film noir is the kind of heavy, depressing stuff from the later 50s. Robert Mitchum was famous for doing those kind of films. But the 70s, like Taxi Driver. And
Taxi Driver.
Some other stuff. What was that? Robert De Niro.
That was Robert De Niro and a very young Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster, yeah. There were some great movies made in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I'm thinking of some TV shows. Remember Kojak?
I do remember Kojak. Yeah, what is it, baby?
Yeah, there's some... and I went into New York in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriend and fiance, and eventually my wife, her family was living in Kearny, New Jersey, which is right across the marshes from Lower Manhattan. So it was an easy trip to go down to take the PATH train actually over to the World Trade Center, and you'd be boom right there in New York. Or you could take the 33rd Street as well.
Yeah.
But and I forget what the name of the place is, but famously that scene you saw many times in The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
The Italian delicatessen with the guy sitting outside with the big Rolex watches.
Yeah.
It was a front for other things.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it was a real Italian deli, and they could get their good food there.
Yeah.
There was a place like that right down the street from the Stricklers on the corner over there.
Yeah.
It was an Italian thing like that, and the guys were sitting out front and stuff like that. Totally looking just like the Sopranos. And Robin's dad, who was a Lutheran minister, he said, "Yeah, I've been in there a few times." He said, "They're really great stuff." And he said, "The guys are really nice, but you don't want to go down there hanging around with those guys."
Oh.
And I was young and stupid from Ohio back then.
Yeah.
Just trust me. Just
Stay away.
don't go there. But why am I saying this?
Because we were talking about the Harvey Keitel's dad.
Well, just about the films and the things that were made. Well,
the films.
Not so much. I mean, there was a great influx of money from the government in the 60s, thanks to, well, originally it would have been Kennedy, but then Johnson followed through. The Great Society. And then Nixon actually did quite decent things for American society in some ways. Now, I mean, clearly he was very much pro going in there and doing all that shit in Vietnam, which caused a huge ruckus.
Yeah.
But the early 70s through the middle, at least, was very chaotic in our country. And New York was an armpit, infamously so. I remember when I went to visit the first time.
This is in the 70s?
79. Oh, no, this was even the early 80s.
Okay.
Probably 81, I think.
All right.
So it's 81.
Yeah.
I remember just going to the city. It was very exciting to be in the city and stuff, but then I was just struck. We went down into the subway. Like, woo! I mean, everywhere you went, at least down in downtown Manhattan all the way up to at least Midtown, at least. And I would say even after the 70s, even all the way up to Lincoln Center. Down there, it was dirty, it was trash laying around, and it smelled like urine, something fierce. It's like there used to, never mind. But let's say the old pit toilets at the county fair kind of thing.
Oh, God.
And the lights, maybe every one of three lights would be actually there's a bulb in it working.
Yeah.
It was just not good. And I was there, and at the time too, the New Yorkers were so,
Yeah.
full of themselves. And I remember one time I went to buy a whole bunch of records at, I can't think of it right now. Very famous store right near Carnegie Hall. It's where they have records and sheet music and stuff. Padelson's.
Yes.
Music store.
Yes. This is the Nordstrom's, Macy's of the music world.
This was still in the LP days.
Yeah.
And they had all of these wonderful 60s period Arthur Rubinstein things, which I have now here. I bought those at Padelson's. I bought at that time.
Did you save the receipt?
$100 or more, and that was quite a few box sets.
Yeah.
It was all Rubinstein stuff. Do you have this and this and this? Because you couldn't get them here at Camelot Records in Springfield. And I said to the guy, do you take check? He said, sure, we take check. Because nobody used plastic cards except rich people in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, we're from Ohio. And that guy said to me behind the counter, said, oh, I'm so sorry for you. Now, we being from the Midwest, we're polite enough not to engage in stupid ass, stuff like that. Yeah. But when I walked out with Robin, I said, you should come to Ohio and check it out. Check out the fresh air, the nice people, clean stores, really, maybe not as variety, maybe not the best food at the time compared to what you had in New York. Yeah. But just, we were civil, we were clean, we were, it was pretty decent. I just remember saying sometimes when I saw things there, I said to Lee and Santi, who were Robin's godparents, they're a gay couple. They lived, it doesn't matter, but they had a smallish apartment, which they would occasionally redo all the time, really do it up and stuff. But I remember talking with Lee one time, who was originally from Virginia, and just seeing things down in the subway and the stuff out in the streets. First homeless people I ever saw in my life was on the streets of New York.
Yeah.
Why do people stay here? There's a whole country out there, with beautiful land and lovely people and all that. And Lee said something which I've come to completely understand. I get it. Because I can imagine any of you New Yorker people listen to me right now. It's like, nah, it's New York. I mean, you been there?
Oh, yeah.
So it's it is what it is. I mean, it's the best, potentially the best of anything,
Yeah.
Everything that's traded in the world goes through those ports, and you can have access to and stuff, and then you have all those people piled on top of each other and everything, and invariably you're going to have problems. And also the people came there, and it's different. We've been on a big tangent. The Midwest, and let's just say basically, anything from Western Pennsylvania out to the Rocky Mountains at least, maybe all the way until you get to California. That's mid-America, right? Really, when it comes up to the Prairie States and all that. There are certain communities here and there, like in Lawrence, Kansas, there's a huge Swedish population, that kind of thing. Certain areas which are, or like Minnesota and upper Wisconsin, you get a lot of northern Scandinavian people, stuff like that. But the melting pot, I think, really is in the middle of America. Well, we celebrate our family origins and our cultural traditions, some more than others. But I think in terms of whatever it means to be American.
Yeah.
And we usurp that word because from the Arctic border all the way down to Antarctica, it's all America. We're all Americans, right?
Pretty much.
But we kind of usurp that when here in the U.S. But New York just always held on to these factional tribal identities in a way,
Yeah.
which makes it a very rich and dynamic and exciting place.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember years ago, Robin and I, my ex-wife, we went to Little Italy. We were down in Chinatown, Little Italy, and it was amazing because there's no break. You know, you're in Chinatown. And then we went through the Jewish district where all the Hasidim
Yeah.
have all those diamond stores. I remember some amazing moments of seeing things. But it was just so amazing because it's like suddenly, boom, it's diamond stores, one after the other, across the street from each other. Talk about capitalist competition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, you know, out here where, well, you got to be careful. You don't want a Starbucks too close to another one. You don't want this store competing with each other.
Yeah.
This is blocks and blocks of one store after the other with Jewish names on them, and they're all doing diamonds, you know. But then there was this whole business. I stopped after this is a good story. The front, the store is a front. We were in Chinatown, and then we kind of wandered our way around to where we were in Little Italy.
Yeah.
And actually, in Little Italy, we stopped at a couple places, which was good to eat. We went to Grandpa's, the guy, Al, what's his name, who played the vampire on the Munsters?
Oh, that guy, Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Yeah. I don't remember his name.
He had a restaurant, I think it was called Grandpa's, right?
Yeah.
It was Italian. And it was a really good restaurant. And then, well, anyway, there's a couple of places. But we went around this street, and Robin was the one, my wife, she said, oh, look, it's a pastry shop. They got Italian pastries in there. Why don't we get a little something? So it looked like this store could have gone back to the beginning of the 20th century because there was a lot of seating area, tables and chairs. There's nobody in there. And it didn't look like it was prepared for people to sit and use the tables and chairs that they wanted to, but it didn't look like there'd been any activity there. And then there was a pastry case, you know, big long one this way, a little bit L-shaped there. And we came in, and I definitely think it was a really old store, but kept up, you know. We walked up just a few little concrete stairs and you come in. It was an old glass door and everything. And there was a lot of good stuff in the case, you know, real Italian pastries and cannoli and stuff. And over back there on a chair, because we were looking around like, where is everybody? There's nobody here. Okay. And there's this old Italian lady dressed in black with the whole little veil thing on and all in black. Old, bony, old, witchy kind of like old lady. Yeah. And Robin's the one, she's just a little testy. She said, could we have some service here? We'd like to get some stuff. And the lady got up. She never broke a smile. She never talked or anything. And she said, could we have this and this? And we had, I let her, because at that time I didn't know that much about this stuff. I was still an Ohio boy. Right. But she knew her pastries because the family lived in the East, you know. So she was picking out some cannoli and some different things. The box we got. Well, I'm just like watching, you know. And I, you know, was ready to pay for whatever it was. Well, I was standing there more near the cash register and looking at the huge mirror behind the cash register with all these photographs taped up on the mirror. Yeah. To my about joy from Tomasino. Hey, have a good one, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm seeing all this kind of shit. All these pictures, all these names, and all this stuff. Yeah. And I didn't say anything to Robin, but my thought was, I'd seen The Godfather by then. Yeah. Holy shit. This is one of those places. And Robin was getting the stuff, and I said, so you got everything you want? Yeah. How much is it? The number comes up, and the lady never said a word. And then I paid her, and then when she gave me my change, she slammed it on top of the glass and just shoved it across the counter to me. I definitely felt like we weren't welcome there. Robin hadn't picked up on it yet. And she said, "Do you want to sit down and have one?" I said, "Let's just get out of here. We can eat it on the sidewalk." We walked out of the store, and this huge black car with dark windows
Oh God!
pulls up in front of the store. I don't know if somebody made a phone call or if it was coincidental.
Yeah.
And then this giant gorilla of a guy in a beautiful black suit gets out, standing, with the arms crossed at the back of the car. He got out of this side and walked over to the back of the car. And the window rolls down, and there's a guy, I swear it's like a Hollywood movie. There's a guy, a little younger. He's probably older than me back then, but he's 40s anyway. But really slicked down hair. I mean, it could have been Al Pacino. I mean, that kind of look, just a whole bit. And everything in a really nice, and it was a white suit.
Oh God! It could be Luca Brasi.
And he just looked at us for a moment. We were just, and he said, "Enjoy your pastries." Like that, what they said. "Enjoy your pastries." And Robin had gotten in and was like munching on one of the cannolis.
Yeah.
And I said, "Whew, let's get the hell out of here." And she's going, "What?" I said, "You didn't see all this stuff?" And then I started, "You didn't see the photographs with all the names and the stuff? And the guys are all wearing these like crossover jacket suits and everything." And I said, "Come on, put it together." And the guy in the car and the whole dude standing there like he could have ripped your head off any moment if he wanted to. "You really think so?"
Oh, that's quite interesting.
So we turned the corner and went right back. Got the hell out of that side street. That clearly, those pastries were not meant for other people. But it was a friend, so they had to do the business.
Yeah.
But that clearly was a meeting place or
whatever.
And no offense, come on. I mean, the organization was the organization. It's been an important part of 20th century history, even going back farther. But now they've gone into legitimately, a lot of them, truly legitimately into business.
Yeah.
They went from Bugsy Siegel in Las Vegas to actually doing real business in Las Vegas.
Thank goodness.
So, it's all right.
That's all right.
But got off there.
1978, Fingers, director James Toback, starring Harvey Keitel, Tisa Farrow. Don't know if she's related to Mia.
Tisa?
Tisa, T-I-S-A. Tisa Farrow.
You don't know. You haven't seen it, right?
I saw it years ago.
Okay.
I saw this movie like when.
That's an unusual name.
Yeah, Tisa Farrow.
I forgot her dad was really famous.
And Jim Brown,
the football player?
the football player, is in this movie. And so, anyways, I'm not sure who Tisa Farrow. I think she's either a mistress or his girlfriend of some sort. Jim Brown, he's just.
Jim Brown.
Yeah, Jim Brown. But to more important things.
Here it is.
The pianist.
This is a big surprise for me.
The pianist.
I know this person?
Don't know.
Okay.
But, all right. His name is James Fields.
I have no idea.
I had no clue who this guy was either. I had no clue who this guy is either. But he was a concert pianist of some renown.
You could hear it, and you could hear it in the film. He knew what he was doing.
He knew exactly what he was doing. You could hear it. The playing was so. It was intense. Born in L.A. Born in L.A. His teachers were Ethel Leginska. I have a recording of her.
Really?
Yeah, she's actually Ivory Classics actually released her on CD. Earl Wild's recording Ivory. And the other teacher is Victor Aller, A-L-L-E-R. Don't know about. I've never heard of him. But Ethel Leginska, yes, I've heard of. All right. Well, this guy must have been really, really quite talented. He got into Curtis and studied with Rudolf Serkin.
Well, LA has produced, and LA has amazing musicians. Come on, in all fields. But you got to consider that back in the day, I mean, the Columbia Symphony Orchestra was put together as an orchestra for Bruno Walter when he came to the United States. That was in California, right? So, and there were some amazing people. Like, who's the guy, rather famous, who plays the violin solo in The Wizard of Oz when she sings a famous song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow? He was a Jewish guy, and he was a concertmaster for the orchestra. They talked about it. It was a very famous Stradivarius.
Oh, wow.
He owned and played.
I did not know that.
But, you know, USC, University of Southern California, created the first doctoral program in performing.
Yep.
My teacher, Howard Karp, Robert Wynn, got his doctorate at USC, and he studied with Albie Sarko, who was Schnabel's first American piano assistant. Gary Gishandro, I think, was based out there because Malcolm Bilson, the forte pianist, is from LA. And it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
He studied with Gary Gishandro and then ends up playing forte piano. But, wonderful scholar, magnificent pianist. But come on, he studied with one of the great Hungarian 20th century pianists. This is really cool stuff going on in LA with classical music. Well,
there's more.
Gustav Dudamel was there. And
Yeah.
they've got a huge new concert hall. The LA Philharmonic and the Opera are both doing amazing things. I kind of envy people.
Yeah.
They also have In-N-Out Burger out there.
So anyways, at the age of 17, 1965.
Oh, you did your research on the pianist?
Yes, I did. We did.
Oh, okay.
With Kathy's help.
He's from LA, and he went to Curtis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Won a young musicians competition, which gave him his debut grant, so he was able to make his debut performing with the orchestra.
Oh.
Throughout the 60s and the 70s, he performed with the Philadelphia Symphony, with the Pittsburgh Symphony, Boston Symphony.
So he was in LA, but he ended up staying on the East Coast.
Yeah, he also performed with Arthur Fiedler's group.
Well, Arthur Fiedler was Boston Pops.
Yeah.
Man, that was a great.
But apparently he must have performed with Seiji Ozawa or somebody with the Boston Symphony. 1971, he won the Leventric.
Wow.
So this guy's got
James
Fields. Now, let's see. Oh, his debut was at 10 years old, performing with the LA Philharmonic, Grieg Concerto.
Yeah.
He eventually, after a while, he married Heidi Lehwalder, Lehwalder. She's a harpist. Now, the tragedy here is in 1984 is when he died. He was only 36 years old. He was born in 1948, died in 1984. 36 years old.
Did it say why?
The autopsy report says unknown causes. A pianist who was that good passes away at 36 years old.
This is like Mozart and Schubert.
Yeah, which is why I wanted to pick up that movie, because it is the only known source of his recording of his. I cannot find him on YouTube or anywhere else. I mean, you can check your phone and he's on Spotify.
You know, the interesting, I know you guys maybe could help us.
I had to dig for this information.
We were both curious. Well, he's an archaeologist. He's a dumpster diver for treasures when he can find them. But we're both fascinated with it. It's already been spoken to in the shows that are up online. We're really fascinated with the more obscure pianists and things that we feel deserves to be known. Part of our duty is to keep those flames alive.
Absolutely. This one definitely deserved it. James Fields.
Well, if he was playing that often with Philadelphia and Boston, how do you get a hold of those piano files who have those pirated recordings?
I would be curious.
Because that stuff actually, once especially as they're old enough, or the artist is passed on, they become available. Technically, the commercial industry can come after your ass.
Yeah.
If you do something to publicize
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Because the managers or the recording companies, they all have rights to all that stuff.
Yeah.
But God knows there's been lots of illegal recordings made forever. Horowitz, for example.
Yeah.
There's tons of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's even, I think, a relatively recent box set that came out, which everything in it are pirated recordings from Horowitz concerts.
Well, I want to know, they had that recording of him performing that Rachmaninoff, or Chrysler Rachmaninoff Liebeslied or Liebesfreude.
Yeah?
It was done in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, you know.
And they have it on YouTube. Folks,
Yeah.
check it out on YouTube. He's performed this Chrysler Rachmaninoff
That was a rather
waltz.
famous concert up there in Ann Arbor.
And it's amazing, because everything about it, it changed my whole view. I mean, it's completely different from what I've heard other pianists do. It's definitely...
I have to see, I have the RCA Complete Horowitz,
Yeah.
which came out some time ago. I bought it when I was a professor in Cyprus. I'm not sure what all's in there.
Yeah.
Be interesting to try some of that. But I've seen some other things. Now, what they call, there was one that said Complete Horowitz. I said, well, I thought I had the Complete Horowitz. But it turns out that they were recordings both pirated and then otherwise just never signed off.
Yeah.
That's the word, unauthorized.
Unauthorized.
And it's a good sized box with a lot of stuff, including some performances he did in Japan.
Yeah.
There was an infamously not successful
Successful,
concert
yeah.
in Japan one time.
Left him
I don't know if that's in
scratching
there or not. Yeah, he wasn't doing well with his health for a couple different times.
Yeah.
I also think mentally he was a little off a few times.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
Okay, what else we got? Well, we have all kinds of commentary on a movie for which he doesn't have any pictures.
Yeah. I'll bring the movie in a couple of weeks.
Good.
Okay? Like I said,
We want to see those pictures on the back of the box.
Oh, good.
I want to see this harpist.
Corrigible. So, okay. I also brought in a magazine.
Is this the one you said I won't recognize?
Maybe you might. This is a all paper.
Ooh,
Old.
home produced. No, I've never heard of that.
Check it out.
Cool.
Classical Disc Digest. Let me show you this.
Wow.
It's got a picture of.
Did you dig this up at the library thing or something?
No, I found this years ago. This is Dawn Upshaw.
That's Dawn Upshaw. Yeah.
She's hot.
She won the. What was that called?
Very old.
Was it the Leventrut? Is that only piano, or is it could be voice as well?
I have absolutely no clue. But all I
She
know
was
is,
famous for the first CD that she did was Barbara's Knoxville
yeah,
and some things like that. Wonderful soprano.
yeah. All I remember is her being on the premiere recording of Gretzky's symphony, Sorrowful Songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she did the debut recording.
I love his music.
Yeah.
Polish composer.
Yes, but here it is, and the contents of this.
Oh, this is not just piano. That's why, because it says Disc Digest.
It says this. Yeah,
And it's
got
all
everything.
paper, huh?
Yeah, it's all paper, but it's got some. I mean, if this is any indication, it has an article of Yehudi Menowit, born 1916, died 1999, and here it is. There's a whole article on remembering Menowit by Phil Muse. There is also a whole segment interview of Ruth Slachinska.
Zajenska.
Yeah. I know how you feel about her, but she's in here, and of course, I like her. I mean, some of the stuff she talks about piano technique wise, are debatable.
We talked about this in a show
Yeah.
that I'm not sure has got up online yet, but will be there.
Yeah,
Music at Your Fingertips is the book.
yeah.
I just felt that there were. I'm sorry, she's passed now, right?
No, she's still
Oh,
alive.
God.
Be careful.
I'm sorry, Miss Slajinska, but it just seems like maybe there were some things in the family which were very hard on her.
Yeah.
And there's some ideas that I just felt were unnecessarily hard on the individual. Now, some people might argue, well, if you want to be as good as Rachmaninoff and you want to play up there in the league with those kind of guys, what? Then you got to be as fucked up as the worst artist possibly in order to succeed. I mean, that's just not.
Yeah.
I've found a number of really great artists. I think yes, talent, and certainly then there's genius, like that Benjamin Grutner guy.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get to be like that? Just some people are just born with this extra spark of divinity and then divine genius, where they can do stuff. But a lot of what we do, people, is hard work.
Oh yeah.
Years and years of really hard work and discipline and stuff. But and then I think because we spend more time than other kids do alone, by ourselves, and we're practicing, and we are professing our faith to something which generally only attracts 10 to 50% of the world population anyway.
Yeah.
Western classical music. You're bound to be a little different.
Yeah, even less today.
Socially a little different and stuff. But most of us are, as things go, people. Yeah. And I've some wonderful down-to-earth folks that I know. A lot of them, surprisingly, I mean, they just mesmerize you with what they can do, and then you find out they're just ordinary kind of guy, just like you say about the reason that George W. Bush won was because the famous thing was, as one of his brothers I think came up with, now who would you rather sit down with and have a beer? And a lot of people voted for Bush because they said, yeah, he seems like a kind of guy you could go just have a beer with.
Oh, I thought it was just a chance. Okay, of particular interest in this issue is a segment called Ruth Sluchinska Remembers.
Oh.
And he lists a few pianists and teachers here that she recalls and remembers some of the memories. So we have here, she has a whole 2 paragraphs on Joseph Levine,
yeah.
Joseph Hoffman. She interacted with him.
She goes back a long
Arthur Schnabel.
Wow.
Egan Petrie.
I'd like to read these.
Alfred Cortot.
She was a student of Rachmaninoff as a child.
Yes, there's even one.
Amazing.
There's a whole, right there is
Wow.
Rachmaninoff, what she remembers of Rachmaninoff. She has also studied with Wilhelm Bachhaus.
She studied with Bachhaus?
Bachhaus! Nadia Boulanger.
Wow.
Isidore Philippe.
Yeah.
Vladimir Horowitz. She had a few lessons with Vladimir Horowitz. That's the last entry here.
I would really like to. Well, I'm curious to see what she would say about Schnabel.
Schnabel, okay. Schnabel, she says, I was 6 at the time, and I remember his lessons for their length, 2 to 2.5 hours, and their utter meticulousness. Every note had to be accounted for. After I played a piece through for him, he would proceed to analyze my playing of it in great detail, often taking up to 30 minutes.
Oh.
In all that time, he never touched the keyboard.
Oh.
He could make more points without pressing a single key than any teacher I ever had.
Oh.
I remember he helped me get the feeling of a difficult passage in Mozart's Sonata in F major, Kershaw 332, by softly singing Eine Blume to me as I played. So I could only imagine it could be the exposition. That's it. So it could be that. I'm just assuming that's what it was.
Well, I would like to see that.
Okay.
I actually met her. I remember now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was at the Franz Liszt Society, the American Franz Liszt Society.
Yeah.
They had a meeting. Howard was a member.
Yeah.
Howard Carr. They had a meeting in Madison when I was a master's student there. I was busy with certain things. Howard thought I should have taken any time off from it, but to be honest, some of the other teachers weren't so understanding. He had to be there for classes. But when there was any other time free, he just said pretty much that week that they were there, he said, don't even practice. Just go and listen to these people play, because there's constant concerts given. Who was the guy? Was it Jose Turbi? Or no? Who was the little guy? Little, I think, Hispanic pianist who was married to the taller lady who was a super famous teacher at Rochester. Who's the Nalita True? Nalita True. You know who I'm talking about? You don't know Nalita True? I think it was her, and it was her husband. Maybe you guys will remember. Maybe I'll find it and put it up. He was the president of the society back then.
The France list?
In the mid to later 80s, yeah.
Oh, I can remember. Let's see. That torch had been passed on to people like Louis Kempner.
That would have been before.
More recently was Howard Leslie Howard.
No,
so it's way back, farther back.
I doubt it was Jose.
He said he was
but some
Hispanic.
kind of a. I think he was a shorter Hispanic fellow. Kind of bald a bit. But he was famously, I thought, married. I thought it was Nalita True. It was a much taller lady. But anyway, Ruslan Zinska did a performance in a mask class there. If anything, I was somewhat struck by how tiny she was.
Oh yeah, she says here. Let me see how tall she was. She does mention how tall she is. She says she never grew. She never got up to 5 foot tall.
Yeah,
and she's well under 100 pounds.
Yeah, it's an itty bitty little lady. I have a feeling that some of what she writes and talks about, don't to get this the wrong way, but the little itty bitty people have to fight awful hard to get noticed.
Yeah,
and to feel like maybe they're competing on the same stage with people. I mean, come on, imagine that lady. She never hit 5 feet.
Yeah.
And Rachmaninoff probably could have played center for a basketball team.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
not center, but at least a forward or a guard.
Yeah. 4'11" as an adult.
Yeah.
4'11".
Boy, this is cool. Would you do me a favor?
Sure.
Because you mentioned it.
Okay.
I just wanted people to see it. This is a real.
Oh my goodness.
The blue one.
This one.
Yeah.
The manuals.
Pull that up and show it to me.
Oh my goodness. This is a big box, folks.
Because he mentioned you in the middle, we don't have to talk about it now, but I was going to say something. But this is a magnificent project. It's put together by a friend of the family.
Oh, folks, this is heavy.
Go ahead.
Is it all CDs?
CDs. There's a great book inside.
It's like the atomic bomb.
Show them a little bit.
Take it out.
Lay it down on the sofa and take out the
okay.
book and stuff.
All right.
It's the Minoan Century, I think it's called. This is a magnificent collection I purchased. Wasn't too bad. I think it was. Certainly no more than $150. But
Do you want me to pull the album out? Or?
I think I played less than that.
Okay.
So there's some different boxes, and it's really there's the book.
Look at that.
Magnificent book.
Look at that. Hardback.
And if right in the front, does it mention the guy's name who put it together? Because he's often connected with you.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
He's a family friend, and actually, it's possible he might have been. Was he the husband of? Was he the husband of one of the sisters?
Wow! Look at that. Okay, Bruno Masseng. Oh, holy criminy!
Let me see.
These people with their European names are impossible to say.
Montsejean. Bruno Montsejean. And I look it up, folks. I'm sorry, I don't know for sure, but Yudi's favorite partner, Hefzibah, she was a great pianist, and they've got some wonderful recordings of them together. She married a British fellow. I don't know if this is the guy, but then I also have a wonderful LP of Yalta, the other sister, playing, for example, the Opus 22 of Beethoven, B flat. Wonderful performance of it. That came with the book. That's like the outside cover for it.
The outside cover.
And then inside are these large boxes.
Can we pull that
with
out too?
CDs. You can show them one or two of them.
Okay, I'll show them one.
They have they're arranged historically, and then in some cases in terms of what kind of music's being played.
His sister?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what they're doing. That's hefty.
look at this. That's his sister, brother and sister.
But then one of the boxes
wonderful?
has DVDs in it, so it has videos. This is a magnificent collection. One of the things I really, really love. And I loved Yehudi Menuhin. I had his book when I was young as a teenager. I read his biography that he wrote, My Journey, I think it was called, My Musical Journey.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such an amazing life that he had. You know, the boy was a Russian Jew, Ashkenazi Jews, I believe, that he grew up in San Francisco. Well, he didn't have that long to grow up in San Francisco.
Last look.
Because he was a brilliant child prodigy. And he was discovered, I forget who it was. It was Louis Kintner, who was somehow connected with him. I think he was played for him, but he was older than him. Forget that. Anyway, what the important thing is he ended up going east and then going to Europe, and he studied with the great Romanian artist Enescu.
Enescu.
He studied with George Enescu, who was an amazing, like a polymath type of brilliant musician, a great composer.
Like
and
Dino Lopati
and a great violinist.
Mm-hmm.
And what Yehudi talks about is that when he played lessons for him, you know, he'd work on the Beethoven sonatas, like all 10 of them, they practice those, or accompanied like Mozart sonatas and things like that, or the Brahms sonatas. Mm-hmm. Enescu accompanied him at the piano, and he said he played quite well.
Yeah.
He was a really fine pianist, he said. And he never once cracked open the music. It was all up here. He's a violinist. That's his primary instrument, right?
Yeah.
And then he also wrote some magnificent orchestral pieces and compositions.
Rhapsody.
And 3 huge violin sonatas. Yeah. The third one, oh my God. And then sat down at the piano, and as he was teaching, and he knew everything. You know, to do this and that, and then he said, let's try it again from here. And Yehudi said he never opened a book of music. It was all up there. He just had it all there. And he lived up in this apartment upstairs in this big, wonderful house. And his lover was a princess who actually supported him financially because she thought he was so magnificent. And then Yehudi had this incredible career, especially a lot in Germany. Eventually, I think it's because he had so much time really there. He ended up, I think he became a British citizen because he got served.
Yeah.
I assume he became a British citizen. And he started the Yehudi Menuhin School outside of London. And there are wonderful videos on YouTube of him, some wonderful performances.
Oh, gosh.
Very classical, old,
very elegant.
Very elegant with the instrument.
And he stands
like
straight.
This, in the way that he plays,
Very straight. He's like this.
And yet he gets this robust, wonderful sound, but he does it in such an old school, I think, more. He's not moving around.
No, he's not.
No, like you think of Nigel Kennedy
guys.
or Nadia Sonnenberg,
where they
doing yoga while they're playing.
Like that.
I love Sonnenberg.
Yeah.
And Nigel Kennedy is also really quite exciting too. But you see some of the old guys, there's a wonderful recording of the Brahms Concerto with Bruno Walter conducting the Paris Symphony from 1950 or somewhere back in there with, it's one of my favorite, Henrik Schering.
Oh, God.
Henrik Schering. Wonderful performance. I love Schering, and he was a violinist later on that when Arthur Rubinstein was interested in recording chamber music. He recorded the, I don't know if it is all 3, isn't it? He probably did all 3. I know 1 and 3 for sure of the Brahms sonatas with Henrik Schering. Yeah. Schering is a very elegant kind of player as well. It's a different sound. Yehudi could have partially been because of his violin. He had Stradivarius, at least one.
At least one, yeah.
And it was a really powerful and sweet sound, but not. It's just it was a different sound, and I loved it. I heard so many stories about him, and there's so many wonderful things that he did. He, of course, was
Oh my God.
very helpful with the creation of the Jewish state in Israel, but also a world citizen and a magnificently wonderful, big-hearted person. He was, I mean, when you read about him and what he thought about, and you know, the interesting thing is that he, as a Jew, he was actually very important right at the end of the Second World War because Furtwängler had stayed in Germany.
Yeah.
A lot of German conductors did, but Furtwängler was Jewish, but he supposedly had helped to save some Jews that were in the Berlin Philharmonic and had infamous arguments with both Hitler and the media and film German guy. Goebbels.
Joseph Goebbels.
Yes, some knockout, fierce fight battles.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when they convinced Furtwängler to conduct at Bayreuth, and Hitler was a great friend and almost intimate friend, possibly, of the Wagner family with Winifred. And there's a famous. Furtwängler only did it once, and he didn't go back. Mostly because he got into test words with Hitler. That at Bayreuth, Hitler, at some point, they got quite testy with each other, and he was saying certain things. And Hitler said to Furtwängler as though it was a threat, realizing that Furtwängler, everybody knew the guy was the embodiment of the best of German music training and musicianship, everything. The musicians just said the guy was extraordinary, just amazing, you know. And that kind of way that he big, tall, unusually bobs like a puppet on strings when he conducts. But he managed to get these sounds and things out of them that were incredible. But anyway, Hitler threatened him. He just, at some point, he was so upset with him. He said, well, maybe you might want to visit. Maybe I can arrange for you to visit one of our prison camps.
Oh, jeez.
And Furtwängler's response to Hitler, well then, mein Führer, I would be in very good company with the people there.
Ooh.
He never got in trouble, but because he had stayed with the Berlin Philharmonic and had worked with the Nazis, but during that time and everything, he was not a Nazi Party member. Yehudi Menuhin came to bat for him because he was blacklisted for a while.
Oh yeah.
Because, being a sympathizer or something like that. Menuhin, as a Jew, very publicly came out and spoke up for Furtwängler and was instrumental in getting him. There was, I think, a 2 to 4 year period where he couldn't work or something.
Yeah.
And it was through Menuhin constantly talking about it. This guy, we've got to get him back. He didn't do anything wrong. And he came back, and I think he worked for another 4 years before he died. I think he died in 56. In 52 to 56, he got back.
They did do a movie on Furtwängler. It's a sort of a drama, biodrama.
I didn't know
It's
that.
called Taking Sides. Some major actors in that movie.
Newer film?
Yeah. Well, not a newer film. This movie is at least 10 years old.
I never
At
saw
least.
that.
It's called Taking Sides, and it's about him, trying to help the Jews.
I don't know if this would be available on YouTube, but I actually have a subscription monthly to the Digital Concert Hall, which is the Berlin Philharmonic's streaming and online thing.
Yeah.
And there's a few films, because in their archive stuff, of Furtwängler. And there's a couple wonderful, more biographic films about him on there.
Yeah.
I'd really recommend Digital Concert Hall. I mean, if you had to make a choice between all different possibilities, it's the Berlin Philharmonic. Robert Petrenko is the music director. They have amazing artists that come and go all the time. And the archives that they have and everything. And it's only, I think, like $15 or $16 a month. Compared to a lot of the bullshit that you get on Netflix or something, there's a lot of good stuff there too, but I mean, my God, the music making that's available is
How do you say that guy's name again? Bruno.
Montsejour.
It's funny.
He's in there?
He's in here. He produced a film about Richter.
Sviatoslav Richter.
Yeah. He calls him The Enigma. And check this out. His name just happens to appear right there. I never noticed it until just reading through.
Well, we're going to have to look him up and see who he was.
Amazing.
I might have made a mistake that he was... We'll have to see who this guy is, because he's the one responsible
So that, yeah.
for putting together that whole box.
And he also made this movie.
Wow. It's spelled Monsaingon.
Well, I held it up.
Yeah, okay.
They could spell it there. But this issue, I'm lucky to have found this issue here. There's mention of a pianist named, Jacob Gimpel. Jacob, Jakob, Gimpel, or Gimpel, G-I-M as in Mary, P-E-L. Okay, now, I've heard of this guy, believe it or not. I have. I watched a movie, very old movie, starring Alan Alda, in a movie called The Mephisto Waltz.
Oh, I've seen that film.
Remember that movie?
Yeah.
It's his
Not Alan. Robert.
No, it's Al.
Robert Alda.
I'm talking about the guy from MASH.
No.
Alan Alda.
He's in it?
He's in it. He plays the actual...
Oh, no, because his father plays in a Gershwin film.
Yes, the film. Yeah. Gershwin. But this is Jacob Gimpel.
Yeah.
And it's funny. And yes, you get to hear snippets of Mephisto Waltz in the movie. A bunch of other stuff, too. But apparently he's quite the pianist here, according to this. They review one of his CDs, which was a recording of a live concert, an all Chopin recital, January 24th, 1976, with encores by Debussy, Mendelssohn, and Chopin. Not many people know about this guy. I mean, he's not very well known. However, his famous how would you say, his contribution to entertainment. Do you remember the scenes from the cartoon Tom and Jerry where Tom plays like the Strauss waltzes on the piano, thinking he's going to nail Jerry somehow?
Mm-hmm.
That's his playing.
Gimpel.
So he does, Gimpel.
Wow.
And so apparently he's a master in improvising as well.
Oh, cool.
Now, there also is a recording. If you could find it, great. And if not, find it on YouTube. Because Marc Andre Hamlin performs or recorded his composition, the variations on I think a sea chanty or a sailor's dance or something like that. Sea chanty or a sailor's dance. And it's tremendously difficult. It's got all it's almost bordering on like being chifra. Almost. Yeah. Chifra. Almost like chifra. I mean, it sounds like chifra, basically. So it's a lot of notes. So that is, here, there's even a picture of him. I've always wondered what he looked like. They actually have a picture of the guy. So here, I'll hold it up for you.
Does it say what his nationality was?
It probably does, but that's him right there.
So what year is this thing from?
Well, it says here the copyright was year 2000.
Oh.
It says here, Classical Disc Digest, Volume 6, Number 3, Issue 23. Copyright 2000. Here. It's got a lot of good articles. They mentioned pianists in Wazoo in that one. They got Slajinska, they got Richter, they got Gimpel.
May I borrow this and read it?
Oh, absolutely. I'll trade you in for it for my Brahms lecture CDs. There's some good articles.
Some cool stuff.
Oh, it does. Now, I'm not even sure it's still in print, if these guys are still, publishing issues. But I've had this one for a very long time, and I just found it at I think I picked it up over at a half-price bookstore, and it was just there. It was the only copy they had, and I just picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow. Oh, this is really nice.
Yeah, it's
very
nice.
It's clearly created by
And Phil Muse,
passionate fan.
Phil Muse, the guy who interviews Slotinska. He's got a big hand in this. He does some of the reviews. He does. I mean, he's got several articles in that. So he's a big time writer and contributor to this magazine. Hats off to you, Mr. Muse.
Good for them. Classical Disc Digest.
Yeah. And I like the way they capitalized the CD.
Yeah. That's very interesting. He's from New Jersey.
Yeah.
It was a little pricey for 2000. I mean, $6.95 for a copy, but I think, there's no advertising in it, right?
No.
It's all articles.
Yeah.
And it covers the
Essays,
whole
reviews.
gamut of things. The latter part of it's all opera and voices.
Yeah.
But then there's somebody talking about this. Wow. Cool. I have to look that up and see.
I'll leave it over here.
Okay.
Stuff. I know you want to look at it. Now, did you want to, or do you want?
Well, you could just show it to them.
Okay.
I'm always interested in historic and then underrepresented things, and this is a Brilliant Classics. Came out of who preceded Brilliant? Vox. Yeah, this is originally stuff that was released on Vox. I was thinking when you're talking about this and some things, when you talk about the Gimple guy and that he wrote this incredibly difficult set of variations that the great pianist Marc Elmer, one of the few in the world that probably can play stuff like that. I think it was probably something to do with the post-World War II desire for humanity to get back to itself. I'm teaching a piece to my chorus right now, which is something a little different than what they've not done before, but a lot of you would know it. It's Randall Thompson's Choose Something Like a Star. Do you know that piece?
I know Randall Thompson.
It's based on the poetry of Robert Frost. It's a beautiful, look it up and read the poetry. It's one of the most meaningful things, and it's one of the pieces I would love to have performed at my memorial, because I love what the words say and what it means. But the poem, I'm not sure when it was written, but when it was printed, published was shortly after the Second World War and everything was done. I think war anytime. I mean, right now in our day and age, we're watching Russia go at Ukraine, and the unforgivable thing is, in a certain kind of way, but it always happens, intentional civilian casualties.
Oh,
That's just.
It's not necessary. It's not.
It's done to hurt the morale of the people in the country and stuff. But if you think about the Second World War. Tens of millions, right? Maybe it was 100 million or more than that. The deaths worldwide and the whole globe was at war because of political alliances and things like that. But I think it's very interesting, that I have some of my earlier purchases, and I even got all this stuff completely all over again on a big box set of Alfred Brendel. But I actually have the original, I don't know, is it Murray Hill or somebody that put it out? The complete Beethoven everything, the Concerti, the piano sonatas,
all of that, the Beethoven
Centenary. No, but the big black box of Brendel, Alfred Brendel from the 50s, when he just recorded all this stuff.
Yeah,
came out and did all this stuff, and then we talk about Musical Heritage Society back in the day, and some of these different LPs and things that I've collected from the past. There was such a massive market.
Yeah.
The 50s, the 60s, even going into the 70s, Eugene Ormandy and those colorful Philadelphia Orchestra albums and all that stuff. I think it flourished because maybe there wasn't the preoccupation probably now as much as there is now with so many world musics, which deserve their attention. That there's so much more variety of things available where there was jazz, there was the new rock and roll, Bill Haley and the Common stuff in the 50s, Elvis, things like that.
Yeah.
And then there was classical music. And I think, there was a appreciation for intellectuals and academics and for music, and there was still a time of white European hegemony, all right? Mm-hmm. And there was a tremendous amount of support for high culture because I think people wanted to try to reclaim the goodness of what we could be rather than the disgust, satanic nastiness that everybody had to put up with in the 40s and then going into the 50s. I mean, it bled into the Korean War and then, good God, McCarthyism, all kind of stuff. But in the meantime, there were these illuminated people. There's a guy, I think it's called the 100 Best Books to Read, a fellow named Clifton Fadiman, who was a great American intellectual. He served on the Encyclopedia something, I don't know if it's Britannica or not, but when I have these wonderful magazines called Wisdom that was put out for quite some time. And it was, kind of promoted, I might say, by the intellectual lefty kind of, brain trust of people who loved all these things. Well, there were all these amazing recordings by these completely, most of the time, who's the guy? Who's the guy that's playing it,
Yeah.
Or who's the orchestra playing it?
Yeah.
A lot of these Central Europeans, a lot of Czechs a lot of the time. British orchestras, but not so famous at the time. I had that Funk and Wagnalls collection that you could buy at Funk and Wagnalls record collections.
Yeah.
20 LPs.
Yep.
And Mom used to get me one every week. There was a new LP that you could get with certain purchase for free. And I've got the whole thing with the original slipcase and everything. None of those, very few of them are like world famous artists or commercially popular things. Yeah. But the performances are really good,
Oh, yeah.
And so this box is a compilation of 30
something
LPs
like that.
or something. There's 20 CDs, I think, something like that.
Yep.
But they hold more information. So there's sometimes 3 or 4 concerti on each one, but they're just oodles of unknown, historically not the highestly regarded, but great works of composers, played by pianists and orchestras and people that you never heard of. But they're good.
Yeah, excellent.
It's
originally on Fox.
Worth listening. It's worth listening. But I think, it was an exciting period, actually, for what we love.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was so much given to it. Nowadays, as we talked about, I don't know if I put that show up yet.
Which one?
Or the new albums, which have those, what was her name? The French one that I talked about, the titles for her albums.
Oh.
Alain, isn't it?
Is it a pianist?
Yeah, what's her name?
Oh.
I love the lady.
Yeah. It's Katya Bionitz.
No. Alain, the French one.
Oh, Grimaud.
Alain Grimaud.
Yeah.
Just some of the titles of those. If we haven't loaded up, it'll be there, and you can get a laugh from it. Because he's dying when I'm reading to him. This has nothing to do with the composer or what the music is or what to know. It's just this poetic word. And I think, it's a way of appealing to a different kind of audience and things like that. But at one time, it was just the rigor of the art form, the rigor of the knowledge, the rigor of practicing it.
Yeah.
The rigor of working on trying to master some of it. Or just working towards mastery. Classical art in all cases, not just in the West, but Japanese great classical practices. typically requires a lot of hard work on the person who's going to certainly do it, if you're actually going to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
But frankly, if you're also going to appreciate it and bring yourself to listening to it, you know. You can play Mozart for monkeys and horses, and it might calm them down. They might like it. There's that guy that plays the piano for the elephants.
Elephant, yeah, the like that. Yeah.
And very clearly, the animals are moved and drawn to things like that. There's a famous quote by Aristotle, though, when he was actually, I used it one time in a paper I wrote. He was very much against the idea of competitions in the arts.
Oh, yeah.
He really hated that thought because he said, you know, there's individuality with every single person doing it, and they bring something unique to it. There are universal qualities of discipline, but that's not what the art is. The art is ultimately the personality and the interpretive power of that person to bring something unique to it that's special.
Yeah.
How do you compare that? How do you compare guavas and apples and oranges? You know, just and pears, Bosc pears or Danjou pears. How do you do that? And I liked it that you mentioned this. What was it, James Fields guy?
James Field.
And
James Fields.
the Gimple fella.
Gimple fella.
And then now the one name I do, well, there's Mary Lynn Doss, who did a lot of French stuff. She's in the French Concerto collection.
Yeah.
And then Michael Ponti.
Michael Ponti
is represented considerably in here. I'm not sure, but is Leslie Howard, I think, shows up in here too.
No,
not Leslie Howard.
Jerome Rose does.
Jerome Rose, yeah.
Rose does.
This is a lower
Eugene List is in there. They don't have that Eugene List. They also have a few others.
Well, so some of them are historically known, you know, reasonably so, but let's put it this way. Michael Ponti did a tremendous amount of work, mostly based out of Germany, and contributed enormously to the recording of pieces that otherwise would be lost.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is, as we discussed many times before, is, you know, when we were growing up here in America, and back at the time we were growing up, we had available what the recording industry and the concert management agencies wanted us to know about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how we knew, I mean, about Horowitz and Rubinstein and Fritz Reiner and certain people like that.
Berman.
Eventually, for a while, Flash in the Pan. Narragansett being brought back to the Ford Foundation. But that doesn't mean, I mean, come on. I know that in some concerts I've played, I've done a really great job.
Yeah.
And I've played some remarkable moments that sometimes people still remind me of, who heard me play this or that or something like that, and they remember this or that. Do you know who I am? I mean, you can look some stuff up and make your opinions about it, but you know who this guy is and what he's capable of doing? He'd sit down at a piano for 8 hours and never break open a book of music and play. You know? Yeah. I think what we're doing in a way is a little bit of the, not really for ourselves, but it's just our passion about it. We're there for all of it, you know, for us, but especially I think in a certain way to speak well of our contemporaries who are doing really great things. Yun-Chan Lim, I think, is one of the most exciting musicians to be around since Ignaz Friedman. But there's a lot of folks that got kind of flushed out with the bathwater, or fell through the cracks, or just historical loss of memory. It's like that comparison we make to the icebergs. Yeah. You know? Absolutely. What you see is maybe 1/4 to 1/3 of what's actually there.
We should make a list. I mean, this guy definitely didn't deserve to be brushed.
Well, you know what we could do? What you could do
Fields.
is a little Facebook project. Yeah. These people that you're discovering stuff, you can make kind of like a memorial list of, you know, remembering some great, never famous talents. Yeah. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be very cool.
And then if you guys, we could even get something started where we could start it. Yeah. And then you people who are listening, if there's people that you've known, your teacher, for example, or an artist that you heard play something that no one will ever hear recorded or anything like that, but you want to remember it.
Yeah.
We can remember the people.
Could you imagine? The only glimpse of his playing is snippets in
Tom
a
and
movie
Jerry?
called Movie.
Oh no!
This guy, James Fields.
Yeah.
James Fields. From a movie called Fingers. I mean, you only get a glimpse.
And that's weird that they didn't know what he died from. 36 years old.
They said the autopsy report, unknown source. They don't know how he died. There's a few more details surrounding his death. His wife, requested that all donations or gifts, sent to her, should be sent to the Young Musicians Foundation instead.
I find it interesting that an autopsy report would say inconclusive, because I think you had to be conclusive for insurance reasons, or even to make sure that there's no criminal.
Yeah, I mean that's what we read. Unknown causes. So
I know that.
If anybody knows any information about this, or they have any recordings,
James Fields, or if you happen to know the guy,
let us know.
He was born in 48, so
1948.
He could still have been alive today.
He could have been
74 years old.
Exactly. But instead, 1948, and he was taken from the world at 1984. 36
in the
years
East
old.
Coast between Boston and Philadelphia. You guys out there in that part of the country, do you remember this fella?
Gosh, I wonder if Peter Serkin would know anything about it. This Rudolph Serkin's son. He would have been around.
Oh yeah.
He would have been around if he didn't know anything about.
He was 36 and died in 84.
Yeah.
He was about that age of those guys in the late 60s and 70s.
Anybody doing stuff. Peter Serkin.
Yeah.
Peter, if you're out there, tell us what you know. Did you get to listen to him play? I'd like to know.
What else you got?
Okay, well, before I show you this, I remember a talk I had with a colleague of mine. It's been well over a decade since we had this conversation. Well over a decade. But I remember him talking about how it's, about the programs of piano recitals, and the repertoire that we play. We discussed that. And, we're in the 21st century. 21st century. And he says, look at the repertoire we're playing. We're still playing Bach. We're still playing Scarlatti. Occasionally, we get adventurous pianist that'll play some Handel. But pianists have been doing that since the 20th century.
Late 19th century now. Already. It started with Anton Rubinstein and maybe in certain ways Paderewski. These massive concerts, but especially Gunnar Johansson did the same thing. These historic recital series where they go back and present a kind of chronological history of music contributed to the keyboard. And I think partially, I don't know what you're getting at, but what I would insert there, I think that the reason that we still have that kind of approach to the iconographic repertoire almost, is because those guys kind of set the standard for the 20th century. And then when some of them survived to make recordings, and then certainly the generation immediately a little bit younger than them that did record and do all that stuff. You listen to Levine, you listen to Hoffman, you listen to some extent Godofsky. I understand he was more highly regarded for his live performances than his studio performances, but at least look at what he wrote. But I mean, you look at some of those amazing performances. Friedman, it's somebody just. I didn't know him when I was younger. I read about him. I remember Arthur Rubinstein talked about him. Harold Schoenberg talked about him. I never saw. I had any record. Well, I did have some of the Chopin pieces, but I really didn't know on an LP on one side of an LP. So 22 minutes or something. But I finally got a big collection of his stuff and was listening to it. Oh my God. Yun-Chan Lim nowadays is a pianist who approaches that kind of music making. And there are some great artists that we have, but I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I kind of stole your.
That's all right. Keep going.
I just think that part of the reason that we continue to do that,
Yeah.
and I would agree probably where you're going with this too much, and maybe it's not necessary in some ways.
That's all right.
But the standard is so high in terms of what was achieved. I mean, let's say Schnabel, the Beethoven sonatas to begin with. Well, why do we do that? Beethoven is a composer, but also Schnabel did that. And as much as some people will say he wasn't the greatest technician, come on, I think his performances are illuminating. You know, but some people have said he had kind of a quirky technique. But I think I don't know what about that. But or Bachhaus recording the etudes originally. You know, they're just, or frankly anything that Rachmaninoff had done on record.
Yeah.
And then some of the really extraordinary interpretations, like the fourth piano concerto of Beethoven with Joseph Hoffman. That's an unbelievable.
Stunning.
The scales are breathtaking.
Yes.
There's just there's breathing in it and shape, and
Yeah.
it's like, holy God, you know, if you can, you yourself, if you're lucky enough to get to a point where you can appreciate the height of that artistry.
Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth,
There's a lot of typing that's going on in the recording industry or for here and there, but go ahead. I want to see where you're going with this.
Okay.
This why are we going back to Bach and doing that?
Yeah.
All
right. Anyways, my colleague says, so, you know, today's pianists, we cover 17th century music, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, and even 21st century.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's 5 centuries worth of music.
Yeah.
Now, so if today we're covering 5 centuries music, let's shift back to the 20th century.
Yeah.
Okay? If the pianists back then were doing 5 centuries worth of music, they would be doing music from 20th century, 19th century, 18th century, 17th century, and that would be like them covering 16th century.
Yeah.
You see? So somewhere he says that there has to be somehow a change of how we approach our program. You know, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I'm like you. I mean, somehow Bach, you know, and these other guys set the standards.
Well, there's some wonderful, contemporary, both in the 20th century and in the 21st century.
Yeah.
There's some very tonal stuff.
Oh,
one might even say,
I still write that one.
One might say that Romanticism is alive and well. It never really died off.
No.
I mean, thank God, you know, that Rachmaninoff just kept writing beautiful melodies when people were doing very different things.
Oh, yeah.
Schoenberg and Krennic and Berg and Weber, for example, that's cool. But then melody managed to hold a place for itself. I love, who's the guy, Jewish composer. I played his Nocturne, and you, I think, showed me a sonata that he wrote. He's in New York. He's still not old, but he wrote like music for competitions like the Day.
Lowell Lieberman?
Lowell Lieberman.
Yeah.
I love
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
What a wonderful composer. And I heard a magnificent concerto that he wrote.
Yeah.
Which was played by a contemporary ensemble in Madison years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, even Stephen Hoff has recorded.
I mean, you could just do the 20th and the 21st century and look at Baroque style, classical style, romantic style, and then chromatic harmony or the breakdown of stuff, so you could go into, the Second Viennese School.
Yeah.
You could cover the different styles.
Yeah.
Just from 1900 into the 21st century.
Oh, you sure?
Just within the last 120 years.
Yeah.
Because Rachmaninoff's third piano concerto.
Yeah.
And frankly, some of that stuff that he writes with all the notes, my God, that's Baroque style playing. I mean, The third piano concerto is in the form of a Baroque keyboard
Composition.
concerto,
Yeah,
you know,
it's composition.
because some of the times, da dee da da dee da 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 dee, that's the melody, right?
Yeah,
That's obligato playing.
yeah,
It's impressive. It's interesting, perhaps, but what I loved about you and John Lemon were in Alsop's performance, which you've got to listen to of the third.
If you haven't, go listen.
It is it's chamber music. It's really give and take, and you know, when the pianist just could do his thing, you know, and not draw attention to himself.
Right.
Because he's not the star of the show right there.
Right there.
What I always get back to is the high point of the slow movement of the G minor cello sonata of Rachmaninoff is not in the cello.
No,
It's in the piano with massive chords and huge shit. You're not an accompanist. You're a pianist. You're a concerto pianist. You should be roaring away and challenge the cellist to play that obligato crap as loud as he can. But you're the pianist. You have the melodic material. It's a micro. But so yeah, I agree with this, and I think. But you know, for example, I'm practicing Bach. I'm playing, and I'm learning more of the second book of the Baltimore Clavier, playing more of it, and I'm interested in going through some of the other things. I've been seriously thinking about maybe doing the Chromatic Fantasy and Fugue on a program.
Which is a very advanced material there, you know, as far as composition wise.
Well, it's chromatic.
It's very chromatic.
Really quite interesting. And very emotive and expressive.
Yeah, at the same time.
Fantasy,
yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
But actually, when I considered doing Bach on a program, I think because of my interest in historic practices and things, I studied with Malcolm Bilson, and I played forte piano for a period of time, and I loved it.
Did you ever play that work for him?
What's that?
The Chromatic Fantasy and Fugue for Malcolm
Bilson?
Yeah. No, okay.
I didn't play that for him. But I think because I became interested in 19th century playing and styles and things like that. When it comes to like doing some Bach on a program, I'm interested in doing Bach hyphen somebody.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I'm interested in transcriptions.
Yeah.
And seeing what they're like, because as I've been reading that book, and it's been a while since I had it open, and I will finish it, and I want to talk very much about things with you when I finish it. But it's this Scottish guy writing about 19th century pianism.
Yeah.
Certainly in the first half, going past Liszt's mid-career, what do you call it? Improvisation was the name of the game.
Yeah.
You had to improvise.
Oh, absolutely.
And playing massive works of people by memory was looked askance.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you presume that you can play all those notes and know exactly what the composer was doing?
Exactly.
They put the music up on top, but when you were improvising, you were doing your own thing. But everybody was required to do it.
Yeah.
Mendelssohn was really quite good at it, apparently, but it made him very nervous.
Yeah.
Probably because he's so good and he's a composer, just thinking like that. He said, God forbid if one of my improvisatory lines took a wrong turn. Then how do I get myself out of it?
Yeah.
You know? But I think even that improvisatory nature and the creative nature very clearly comes through into the 20th century with all of these pianist composers.
Yeah.
Not composers who wrote for the piano, but concert pianists who had felt compelled to write their stuff. I mean, Leschetizky wrote a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, some of it is pedagogical, but a lot of it is just an outgrowth of it. And then I have a thing right there. That blue notebook is just full of pieces by concert pianists, but they're either transcriptions or their original works.
You know, that's funny when you said about how Mendelssohn was wondering if he took a wrong turn someplace. We're going to find pieces like, I've always wondered about the wrong turn thing. concerning Chopin's Ballade Number 2.
Oh,
I mean, think about it. It's an F major, right?
right.
But what key does it end in?
F minor? No. A minor, that's right.
Ends in A minor. That sucker ends in A minor. I mean,
But it has that kind of contrast.
yeah, I know, but still, the wrong turn concept. What if he? I mean, I don't want to say that he didn't intentionally meant it to be that way. He probably did. Okay, for his own reason.
Right.
But I always thought that F major is either going to end in F major or F minor, or possibly maybe even D minor,
Right.
or D major, possibly. But A minor.
I can see
The
that.
third.
Not when you've been in F minor, but yeah, if you're in F major,
Yeah.
you end up on the third.
Yeah.
Huh.
But it's a funny. But anyway, so what I was getting, the point I was getting into
With the repertoire.
with the repertoire
Yeah.
thing. Okay, so we talked about this, and I came up with a possible, not a solution, okay, but a potential possibility of, well, possibility of evolution. And I've talked to you about this once before. We just sort of breezed past it a little bit. But, since a lot of these competitions, you have these pianists, powerhouse pianists today, playing all this Liszt and Rachmaninoff. But what other possibilities could happen post Rachmaninoff? I mean, we'll still be playing Rachmaninoff, of course, but eventually Rachmaninoff is going to be more like the century's new Chopin.
Who's the name of the?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
You know.
But I'm thinking, yes, I've actually heard. What's his name? Nancaro, or what was his name? Nancaro.
The composer? Or?
Yeah, the composer.
Yeah, Nancaro.
He actually wrote for piano rolls because his stuff was so difficult.
Exactly, I
and
remember
soloists couldn't actually play
Yeah.
it. But then there's the Indian composer.
Yeah.
Indian guy.
Yeah, Kai Sarabji.
Sarabji.
Yeah.
Who supposedly had this Godofsky-esque kind of
Yes, he does.
enormous
Absolutely.
technique that he could play. I mean,
If some of you don't know him, for a long time, he had banned the performances of his work.
Yeah.
He had banned it. But for some reason or other, for the last, 3 or 4 decades, he's lifted that ban, only because, I'm not sure, but I think it's because of Marc Andre Hamlin. He had the technique and the chops to balance things out. Excuse me.
I was going to suggest also Pierre Boulez,
Oh,
the second sonata, for example.
Yeah.
Professor Wynn played that.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Yeah, there's some challenges. I mean, frankly, there are other virtuosic problems that exist in some of the compositions of John Cage.
Oh, yeah.
There's some really difficult things to do and to coordinate. His Stralis and Borealis pieces.
Yeah.
This is where he took paper and took music paper with lines, staves on them, and then he took a star map of the cosmos, and then I don't know, if it was the compass point or what it was, but he would poke through the star map and create holes, impressions.
Wow.
On the music paper.
Yeah.
And those would become sound events, I might say. So they would be notated then based upon where they were, if they were on the staff, above the staff, below the staff.
Right.
And the Freeman etudes, for example, for violin, are notoriously difficult because it's one note after the next, but each one has its own dynamic and its own articulation, and then there are tempi considerations.
Right.
And I have the CD of the fellow I forget who's rather famous for the performance. I think he worked on it with Cage. If you understand what's happening, it's some of the most remarkable virtuosity any human beings have had to put up with. I mean, there's kind of challenges in some music like that where you need AI probably to realize it, because there are very few human beings who can effectively pull it off.
Huh.
I think, for example, some of the stuff that Marc Elmer does,
Yeah.
which he does with such apparent ease and flair. He's a genius. He's got this quirky Godowski kind of. He can play all the Godowski pieces, and play them in such a way that they seem very entertaining and wonderful and delightful. They don't sound hard. Yeah. I told you one time, as much as I admire him, who's the big tall pianist? Sometimes he's on the tone bass thing. He plays. He's known now for he's a big pianist, big tall, physically guy, older, but he's known for playing all the Beethoven concerti around a lot lately.
Eric Olson? No?
Yes, Garrick Olson. I have a recording, an LP recording of him, which I've always found. I was very disappointed in it, and I didn't know if it was him or if he just had a especially piggish piano, like what he was playing. But it's all Rachmaninoff transcriptions.
Yep.
Maybe some original pieces as well. But when you hear Rachmaninoff play it or certain other piano, and it has this kind of agogic stuff in it, which is from the way that he wrote it originally for the violin, which was done by Fritz Kreisler, because he wrote the original pieces. The way Gary goes, now, I'm not saying that the boys, he obviously can play.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's his fault. I just kind of felt that when I heard it, I thought, my God, it must be a stiff piano that just sounds big and loud all the way through. But there's no winking and dancing and impish things like in the original composition, the original recording that Fritz Kreisler did. And what's my point about that? It's just, what is my point about that? Just, I'm especially drawn the older I've gotten to an orientation towards making music which is gestural.
Yeah.
There's an implied gesture in it, and it's free of kind of a structural rigidity, even a metronomic rigidity, that the music has to breathe and flow in a certain kind of way that it seems like our conversation. Yeah. We are not talking like this about that subject. Now, to some people who maybe hate us, this is what they hear, and it goes on interminably forever. But we don't talk like that.
No,
we're not
don't.
Saying the word Jesus. I'm jumping around on things like a little bee on flowers.
Yeah.
But I think music has to have that kind of natural flow and
spontaneity.
And that's more and more what I'm drawn to with performances. And one of the things that I think had an effect on that, so I know from some artists saying why they hated recording. I didn't like it. One is the emphasis on we can make it perfect. We can make it no perfect. Yeah. I mean, in a sense, Glenn Gould utilized that technique.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was famous for, clip it, do this, put this in here, take that one, put it here. He was creating interpretations in the studio that were not performances. Right. They were creations from the recorded materials, and he was creating an interpretation from that. Yeah. That's very different. It's very different. And then if you get into just worrying about it being no perfect in times, you can always fix it. It's true. But why did Horowitz in that Return in '65 when Carnegie
Oh,
Hall,
I was waiting for you to come.
why did he leave that Busoni Bach transcription? Yum bum ba.
What?
He goes, but the very opening thing, yum bum ba, and he hits 2 notes.
Yeah.
Right? He was nervous as all get up.
Oh,
They had
yeah.
to push him out on stage.
Yeah.
And then he settles in, and it takes off, and just runs beautifully.
Yeah. Well,
He could have gone in there probably even back in those days, and
fixed it.
fixed it.
Yeah.
Had taped in a correct note,
Yeah.
and done it. I know that in the recording that came out years ago, he was doing the Rachmaninoff Third. He played it with Ormandy in the Philharmonic.
Yep.
And he played with Mehta in New
Mehta.
York.
Yeah.
And apparently he screwed up in the second movement somewhere. Come on, he'd been playing this thing for ages.
Yeah.
So it happens, you know. You just
Yeah.
perfection is. I don't think perfection became the point until we got well into a majority of people being influenced by recordings.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now you've got some people like the amazing things like the 2 Brahms Concerti live at the Vienna Philharmonic
Yeah.
at Bernstein with Christian Zimmerman.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any squeakers at all. I didn't hear anything wrong, and they're great performances.
Oh, yeah.
And there are some people nowadays that are really able to bring off utter perfection and effortlessness in a way that it's pretty impressive. I heard somebody doing, I don't think it was Yun Chun, but somebody was playing. It was a relatively new performance I happened to see of a younger pianist playing from the, I think it was Mazeppa or something, but from those etudes.
Yeah.
A couple moments, but you know,
Yeah.
still amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But I think what would be interesting. Now look what these pianists are doing. When he did his, what's the famous small hall where Yun Chun played in England?
Whitmore.
Yeah, in Wigmore Hall. Going back to Dolan, right?
Oh, yeah.
John
Pretty
Dolan?
close. Dolan or...
Bull? It wasn't Bull.
No, it wasn't Bull. Gibbons?
No, I think it was Dolan, right?
It might have been Dolan.
But
Yeah.
some of them are going back into the 17th century.
Yeah.
And I think that's very interesting because, you know, Godofsky did all those Renaissance transcriptions.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff. I played a couple of them by, I think they were pieces of Lully originally.
Yeah, Rameau.
And Rameau. And I played some of those. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
There's a fascination for that music. And it's interestingly, some of those artists were kind of exploring that stuff.
Yeah.
But what would be interesting is if some of what I thought, what if you get some of these newest pianists,
The newest?
like Igor Levit, for example, would he do this? I don't know, it's not Helen Grameau's kind of thing, but who's the Icelandic pianist?
Oh, Vikiner Olafsson.
Olafsson, for example. Yeah,
Olafsson,
Vikingur Olafsson. I heard some of his Bach. I like other performances. His is fine. It's very impressive. Some people thought it was fast for fast's sake.
Well, I've heard self-indulgence was his biggest crime.
Yeah. But they are some interesting, intellectual, powerful pianists. Might be interesting as some pianists in the 21st century started doing a round of historic recitals again. This hasn't been done much in the later 20th century, right?
Very much.
And nobody's doing it now. But wouldn't it be interesting if you went back to the later 19th century when Rubinstein, Anton, first one to do it, wasn't he? The 12 historic recitals?
Yeah.
Going from way back to
yeah.
present time. Gunnar Johansson did one.
Yeah.
There are some other people that are mentioned in the book, actually, that did that kind of thing. But it'd be kind of interesting if you got some young guys who really have great chops and really can play well. And if they were to do historic recitals in the 21st century, which, I mean, Rubinstein is at the end of the 19th century. 20th century didn't exist, nor the 21st century. So they're going to have to do 15 or 16 recitals. They're going to go all the way back to Dolan and Gibbons and stuff like that. You know? I mean, Bach wouldn't show up until the third recital, right?
Yeah.
You got all the guys in front of him. And then work your way through and come on down through the 20th century and present some things. I love the, I'm thinking of Arthur Rubinstein played a lot of 20th century music. He had a lot of stuff dedicated to it.
Oh, yeah.
Villalobos, Debussy, I think.
Stravinsky
said things.
Particularly.
And there's that wonderful, when he was in his 70s, mid-70s, it was that time when he played the, when was it, 16 to 18 piano concertos in New York over 2 weeks or something like that. The Brahmses, all the Beethovens, the Chopins.
Who was that?
Arthur Rubinstein.
Okay.
He did that as two amazing things. Well, three that when you include the Moscow recital, when he went back to Russia. He did, and he was like in his mid-70s. He played something like 16 to 18 concerti with orchestra in over a period of 2 weeks in New York. And then there were the famous concerts that he gave at Carnegie Hall, where he did kind of a thing like that, where he played a slew of music. It was almost like historic recitals. I don't know if those are in the full Rubinstein box I have, but there is that LP that I have, which is the selection of the 20th century pieces from those concerts. You know it, right?
Yeah, I know what you're
It's got some Ravel and Debussy,
Prokofiev,
Prokofiev,
he does the
and the Prolo de Bebe of Villalobos.
Yeah, the Police Chanel.
Yeah, the Police Chanel, yeah.
Now, what's sad about that? He didn't record any of the Szymanowski solos. It would have been nice.
Or they didn't show up on the recordings, but...
Well, David Duvall did interview him once, and they talked about Szymanowski. He said that
Szymanowski is hard.
Yeah, it is hard, but he said he got to hear Rubinstein, play a whole half hour's worth of Szymanowski solos. He says it just made his head spin. There was so much music in half an hour, and this is stuff that he didn't even program. That's sad.
Szymanowski was discovered by Rubinstein.
Oh yeah,
there's a famous story in the first book, My Young Years, where he's living with he gives him a fake name, but this Polish family that are friends of his, wealthy, very landed gentry kind of people. And he's staying at the house. There's the mother and the son who's homosexual. Yeah. Ends up being a conductor. Very interesting guy. Dies on the podium years later from a heart attack when he's conducting the Meistersinger Overture. I think that's wonderful. What a great way to go.
You can come and go at the same time.
But Rubinstein, he goes into it's a huge palatial house. And he goes over to a wing of the house so he can practice at night. Yeah. He's just practicing to get ready for concerts he's going to have. And he's all by himself in the big room with the Steinway, or probably Bechstein. Yeah. Not a Steinway, Bechstein. And it's nice out. I guess it's in the summertime. Yep. It's probably likely when he was there anyway. It was visiting in the summer. And at one point, he looks out through all the windows and he sees a dark figure in the garden with a cloak on. And it kind of scares him.
Oh, it would be creepy.
And he was curious about it, and I think he tells the family that night, but then he goes again and he practices again, and he sees it. This time he has more courage, and he goes out and opens the doors and calls out to the garden, "Hey, you, who are you here?" And the guy runs away again. Yeah. And then I think the third night, he gets his friend. I forget what's he called his name? Frederick.
Yeah.
Harmon like or something.
Yeah.
Harmon. It's a totally made up name. Yeah. He gets him to be there with him. Yeah. And one guy's waiting at the door. Robert was just playing, and Frederick opens the door and doesn't grab him, but he's too close to the house. Yeah. And they do say, "Come here. What are you doing?" It turns out the guy is a medical student.
Yeah.
Who happened to be walking out one night and he heard this beautiful piano music. He was coming to listen. Well, people may not know this about Szymanowski. He was from a wealthy, now he's credited as being Polish.
He's Polish.
But his family was actually living in what is the Western Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, Poland wasn't established, well, it was a kingdom in the 18th century, and then it all fell apart and it was parted up by Russia, Austria, and Germany. It wasn't until after the First World War that it became a modern state with its present borders and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's some argument with some people that Szymanowski has shared Ukrainian and Polish heritage because of where he was from down there. But Szymanowski studied medicine originally. That's what he studied at university.
He looks like one.
The family expected him to do that, actually. But he was really quite well-trained pianist, obviously. And quite, really, I don't know where he learned his craft, but a damn good composer.
Oh, darn.
Early on.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy said, well, I'm not a musician, I'm actually trained to be a doctor, but I have a colleague who's also in medical school with me, but he's a wonderful composer. Yeah. He plays the piano and he writes his own music. And I just think it's wonderful. And I just wondered if you would be willing to listen to him. And so Rubinstein, the way he writes about it, me and Freddie go, some composer, of course.
Yeah.
We'll look at your music.
Yeah,
come tomorrow.
Cheesy.
Come tomorrow after breakfast, and we will listen to it. And look at it. So the guy showed up the next day in the sunlight for a change. Yeah. And he brought a whole bunch of scores. Yeah. And Rubinstein and Frederick went over to the piano and started to look at it. And Rubinstein said his jaw dropped. Yeah. And he's playing some of this stuff. You know, some of the early stuff is romantic, and it's often said it's kind of Scriabinesque-ish.
Yes, but also
lovely chromaticism. I mean, yeah, it comes. It's kind of throughout his whole career. Yeah. I think he was really always experimenting with various influences because he became interested in Muslim things in the Middle East, and is that wonderful? Third Symphony with the tenor who was reciting poetry of, is it Khalil Gibran or whoever, something like that. Yeah. And then there's also the songs of the Drunken Muezzin. Wonderful pieces. I've got them on LP.
You do?
I have to listen sometime. You got a record player?
No.
I do. We'll listen sometime. I'll talk about that. But that's how. And then, because they were so excited about the music, Rubinstein said, we've got to meet this guy. And so then he meets Szymanowski. Turns out Szymanowski is fabulously rich from a very wealthy family. Yeah. And there's an interesting time when Rubinstein is having a really hard time financially and stuff. And, I mean, really bad. Yeah, like really I remember bad. That set. Like really practically suicide. Not the suicide moment, I think. Yeah. But without any asking or anything like that, he's wired some money. Yeah. That, as it turns out, later on he discovered, somehow got directed to him. Yeah. But he was not supposed to be the recipient. But quite synchronistically, he got the money and it helped him a lot, saved him. And it was from Szymanowski. Oh, wow. So this is great. Yeah, he was a gig artist too. He was a what? He played gigs. Szymanowski did. Oh, yeah, there's a story. You know, like jazzy stuff?
No, not jazzy stuff, but he did play. Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, supposedly there's a story about how he had to play gigs to support himself in medical school and stuff. And so
he came from a family, but he may not have owned it yet.
Yeah, and so he tells his family that he's got to go out and play some gig at some cafes or some restaurants, and so he's scheduled to play. He says, and he put on his nicest suit, looked nice and dapper, and he'd go out the door with his hat, and he says, so long, family, I'm going out whoring.
I have a feeling that he probably didn't need to do it. He wanted to do it.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because the family, they were wealthy.
Okay, that I did.
Rubinstein was fortunate. Some of those Polish Ukrainian families he knew were really well-to-do.
I just know that story about how He said he compared going out and playing in cafes as whoring.
Yeah.
So
Well,
anyways,
haven't we all done that?
what? Oh, that. Yeah, I
More or
know.
less. I mean, at
Yeah,
times. in our
more or
careers,
less. Yeah,
sometimes.
right. Well, it is now 16.
Okay.
So, but anyways, I wanted to.
You got some more?
I had some stuff here.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to bring forward, some possibility that maybe in another 5 years, 10 years, possibly more, that maybe Nikolai Metner would become the new
Look
Rachmaninoff.
at you.
The new Rachmaninoff. This guy.
Is that all Metner?
This is all Metner.
And it's all Dover.
It's all Dover. Some of them might be out of print.
Yeah.
Okay. Here I have the complete piano sonatas.
Oh my God.
Take a look at it.
I've never seen these.
They're from Dover.
I know of the existence of them.
Yeah. Marc-Andre Hamlin has recorded all of those. But so has somebody else. A few other people. Very small group of people have actually recorded all of those.
Wow.
Jeffrey Tozer has recorded all of these, the complete fairy tales of Metner.
Yeah. You ever wonder where Rachmaninoff comes from?
Yeah.
This is his predecessor.
Yeah.
That kind of style of writing and stuff.
Yeah. They both studied with the same teacher.
Taneyev? Oh, Taneyev.
Taneyev.
Yeah.
And this is the fairy tales complete. Now, his music is hard to come by. That's the preface at the beginning of these books talk about the published works of Metner, and so much of it is being edited simply because they're trying to make sure that the released versions of these are the correct ones. So he was a very prolific composer.
Yes.
I found these here at my book sales. You won't find this.
Was it a Russian edition?
No, this is a Bellwin.
Bellwin? Yeah.
You would be hard up to find these. You probably could find them on IMSLP, but this is the Danza Festiva, Opus 38. And this is the Tragic Fragment, Opus 7, number 2. Wow, look at that. That's crazy. I wouldn't know where to begin with this one.
This one seems more accessible.
Look at this
I'd
one.
say this is like advanced, just beyond intermediate.
Yeah.
I mean, for a good pianist to practice.
Yeah, somewhere out there floating around is Marc-Andre Hamlin's recording of this one, the Danza Festiva. There's also
Actually,
a recording
this might not be.
of Anne Shine doing this one as well.
This might not be so problematic because it's an andante tempo.
Oh yeah.
Young. It's an insistent
Yeah.
figure. It's everywhere in the composition.
That's a true
That
test.
just shows up there is the collection of Russian repertoire.
Yep, he does show up every once
like
in a while.
that. That's a Dover publication.
Yeah.
He shows up with things like that, and I've got a recording, but I forget who's doing it, of the second sonata in G minor, right?
Yep. Emile Galels, perhaps?
Probably.
It's
Yeah.
Emile Galels.
That's a pretty famous recording, actually.
It's practically the only recording.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. But you mentioned IMSLP. I think if these things are unavailable, just a little plug there for guys, if you're looking for repertoire, strongly recommend taking an annual subscription in IMSLP.
Yeah.
Otherwise called the Petrucci Library. I don't know what it is now, but it's not $25. At most, it's $24 a year, just $2 a month kind of thing, if you figured it that way. Extraordinary library of all kinds of things. I mean, 95% of the composers that you'll see listed there you probably never heard of, but all the big boys are there, and in some cases, oodles of repertoire of things.
Did you
It
see
just
this?
depends on who's put it up.
Somebody must have left their notes in this thing.
I didn't look at it.
Wow. Yeah, they list it's a recording listing or discography of somebody who recorded what.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's not my handwriting.
No. I actually think this is somebody who writes somewhat fast and very vertically with their hand.
Yeah.
I think it's a European trained man. Looks like it. But the other one that I told you, well, we wouldn't have up online yet.
Yeah.
But it's a more recent discovery is pianorarescores.com.
Yes.
They are putting together some interesting collections of schools, historic composers. There's a big Russian school of various people. The way they do it is you can order things from them and they send you PDF files. So they're permanent files which you can store on your computer forever. But then you can print the things out yourself as you like. So they're not sending you hard scores. This is also the way IMSLP works. They're PDF scores that you download and then can print out as you want to use things. And the one other thing I just mentioned in line with that is Marston Records.
Yes.
We both have a membership with them.
Yeah.
He and his partner are doing some extraordinary engineering, re-engineering.
I heard Gregor Benko. Does that name sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
He's involved with Marston.
Mm-hmm.
He's now involved with Marston, so
They're putting out some amazing historic documents.
He's the guy that discovered Nirachazi.
Marston?
Gregor
Benko,
Benko.
that's right.
We found him there
Yeah,
at that church performing his recital.
that's right. Well, I got hiccups.
This was an exciting episode. My heart still goes out to that James Fields guy. I mean, 36 years old.
If you guys know about him, he seemed to have been pretty busy in the East.
Yeah.
Maybe followed in, but well, I'll get more of these shows up online, and hopefully we'll get even more subscribers, followers, and start having some conversations.
Yeah,
Through
absolutely.
our Facebook page. So, I got the hiccups now. Better call it quits.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, folks, if you liked our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share us with your friends, family.
Follow us on
colleagues.
Facebook too.
Oh, yeah, Facebook. Keep forgetting that one. So,
That's supposed to be your territory.
yeah.
If I'm editing and loading up these films, you got to be controlling the Facebook page.
Okay. Figure that one out soon. All right. Well, we are
Mark,
an Elmer.
and this is Marc Elmer's PSI, Piano Scene Investigations. See you next time, people. Thank you.